this is called moving in and out of faiths. What does that mean? It means I'm going to talk with you about how evolution and human manipulation change us biologically, technologically, and spiritually, and what the implications of that might be for you and me, all of us. To start with, I'm going to pass around a photograph. Bob, you saw this photograph last Sunday. I'm not doing that whole sermon, only part of it.
Twice is fine.
I want you to take a look at this photograph. Pass it around. Pass one around. Pass them down the aisle. This is not a photoshopped photograph.
Like to change the image, but I can't do it.
Does anyone know where it is? A horse of a different color.
Horse with no name.
The first time I saw this animal was on the front page of the New Zealand Herald back in, I think it was 2007. And I brought the newspaper with me. Some of you know that I've been minister in New Zealand on several occasions. Here it is, on the front, my ancient newspaper. I want to read you what the newspaper said about it. A female zebra and a female horse produced this rare offspring.
Wow.
This has to be the ultimate zebra crossing. Eclipse the Zorse is striking proof of how an offspring inherits genes from both parents, which in her case was a male zebra and a female horse. The result is shown in her amazing coat, which looks like a zebra's that has been partly covered with white paint. I didn't think of it that way. I thought of it as the white horse that was covered with stripes, but that's me. While most zebra horse crossbreeds have stripes across their entire body, Eclipse has only 2 such patches, on her face and on her rump. I love that word, rump. This 1-year-old was born after her mother, Eclipse, was taken from her German safari park home to visit a ranch in Italy. And this is where I say, those Italians, those Italians. There she was left to roam freely with other horses and a number of zebras. And this is common in many places. One zebra, called Ulysses, Ulysses took a shine to her, and there was some horseplay. I couldn't make this up if I tried. When she arrived home to Germany, Eclipse's mother surprised her keepers by giving birth to a baby Zorse. Eclipse has become a major attraction at her home safari park at Schloss Holte Stukenbrock, near the German border with Holland. In Africa, horses and zebras are often crossbred and used as trekking animals. Now, I say they're often crossbred, they're put together to see if the two will match up. There's reproduction that happens naturally because one animal takes a shine to another. This happened with a zonkey that I knew. The zonkey's name was Alex. Zonkey was the result of a donkey that fell in love with a zebra. The zebra that was brought to the mother zebra had no interest, but the donkey jumped on it. So you never know what kind of combinations are going to come about. Now, these crossings can happen in the wild, and they happen because of animal attraction. The thing that's on my mind is the way we manipulate this. cats, the way we crossbreed animals for human purposes, without the consent of any of the animals involved. For instance, think about the history of dogs. Dogs are all distantly related to an original wolf-like animal. And then I think about a Chihuahua. And I think about a Chihuahua looking at a Great Dane thinking, you're my cousin? You're kidding. And I think about all the sheep who are crossbred to change their wool. I think about pigs who are genetically engineered so that they will produce more pork for human consumption, not for anybody else's, but for human consumption. I think about all the horses that are crossbred for dressage?
Dressage.
Yes, thank you. For show purposes, jumping and all the rest of it. I think about the horses that are crossbred to be polo ponies, the Arabians and the thoroughbreds for racetracks, the horses that become trotters. There's an enormous variety of this kind of crossbreeding, all of it arranged by humans. My favorite one, which I didn't bring a picture of, is the liger. The liger, a lion father and a tiger mother. What I like about that combination is the only thing I like about it. You may remember I talked about tiger mothers on Mother's Day. Tigers in Chinese theory and mythology are the kings of the animal world, not the lions. Tigers are much more ferocious, they're much stronger, very aggressive. Tigers like to swim. Ligers are a cross between a lion father and a tiger mother. And ligers like to swim, like their tiger mothers. But like their lion fathers, they're very family-oriented and very affectionate with other big cats, so they're very gentle and mild. Interesting, isn't it? A mild, tiger-like animal that looks like a lion with tiger stripes, usually across its entire body and into its mane, and often with tiger stripes across the forehead. I encourage you to Google ligers and take a look at the vast assortment of them. Now, the thing about this is the part that concerns me. Ligers do not occur naturally. Tigers are originally from Asia, lions from Africa. They will never meet in the wild unless one of them or both of them escape from some other place. These animals are created for entertainment. They are found in safari parks and zoos. It's the only place they're found. And they're there to attract visitors, to raise income for those places. The lion and the tiger have nothing to say about the way they become parents of an offspring. And it's also true that most animals who are crossbred become sterile. You know this about mules, the result of mating a donkey with a horse. It doesn't give birth to any more mules or donkeys or horses. It's just that one. So these are called hybrid situations or hybrid situations, depending on what you're talking about. I thought about them because I've been thinking about our own faith tradition, which has been called a hybrid faith tradition. It makes sense in a certain way. This faith tradition stems out of earlier steps. It evolved, as in evolution, out of several other varieties before it became what we know it to be today. I'm sure you don't walk around thinking, I'm a hybrid Unitarian Universalist, but in fact, in a way, we are. We have chosen a tradition that has evolved over time. From the very beginning, Christianity was created out of different schools of Judaism. Islam was created out of different schools of Judaism and Christianity. There are numerous varieties of Islam today, some of which have caused us enormous trouble, and I'll be talking about some of them on August 6th when I discuss my trip to Afghanistan. Buddhism comes from one teacher. Vedanta teachings, their authors are not known to us. We don't know where they went, but Vedanta became Hinduism, which has numerous deities and paths of worship, different types of worship. Buddhism split out into Zen Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Thich Nhat Hanh's Buddhism. There are numerous types of Buddhism. All of these happen because one person has an idea, and someone then thinks that he can do it better, and I'll do it my way. You know that old commercial about a hamburger? Do it your way, have it your way. People seem to get into this because they want to control part of this. They want to control something in their life. And part of this, I think, is a human desire, understandable, but disturbing sometimes. Humans have a great desire for more. More of something, more of everything. People rarely stop at enough. They rarely stop at enough. They keep going. I need the newest tablet. I need the newest Apple Watch. I need the newest Fitbit. I need the, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? And so people keep progressing. I don't think there's anything wrong in change. I think change is what enriches us and helps us grow as animals and as thinkers. What I'm concerned about is where our values are in all of that. The director of the Museum of Natural History's Big Cat Initiative said that it was absolutely unethical to breed lions and tigers. Unethical. I would say beyond unethical, it's immoral. And this is where I raised questions about our own beliefs. We have 8 principles now that are given to us as suggestions, and sometimes they are called the 8 suggestions. They are what should we say, guidelines, guideposts for us as to how to operate ethically and with care in the world. I don't know how many of you, well, I did a session here one day on some of the origins of Unitarian Universalism, and almost everyone who was there was a long-time member of this congregation. Not new members, old members. And I say to myself, new members need to study up what goes on in this tradition and how it came about. I'm sure that most of you know that we are thought to be descended from ape-like humanoids. Remember Charles Darwin? But a lot of us don't know what we're descended from in the Unitarian tradition as it exists today. And as it exists today is very different from how the 2 separate strands started and how they merged together, and all of the accommodation and discussion we had to have to become what we are today. As a minister, I have to be educated about this. I have to study the history of this tradition. I have 3 copies of Singing the Living Tradition in my house. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that not one of you has a copy of it at home. You do, Elaine, congratulations. More than one? Pardon you? Yeah, Linda, of course, the music, yeah. Sandy, you and some, you did too, yeah. I would suggest that if you don't have a copy at home, it's an expensive book to buy. You might be able to buy them in bulk if it gets arranged. That you come early one day or stay late one day and go through this hymnal from start to finish. It's called Singing the Living Tradition because this is an evolving faith tradition. It's got an amazing assortment of literature inside it, and an amazing assortment of topics. The one thing I'm upset about, which I said when I talked about Quakers, it has nothing in it from the Quaker tradition. It's got things from all kinds of other places, but not from the Quakers, who are perhaps the friendliest. The Society of Friends. They are the friendliest, but they're not in it, and I don't understand why that is so. So I would suggest that you browse through a copy if you're not going to buy one. I would suggest further, by way of understanding where you are now in this congregation. I ask the question, is this your final destination? When I was studying at theological school, I had already gone through 3 years of seminary. I had been ordained as an interfaith minister, and I'm wearing my interfaith prayer stole. If I move, well, I'll move for a second. Most of you can probably name many of the symbols on this stole. Maybe not all of them, but most of them, you know? They represent different world religions. I've had this for years, and people have asked me why I bothered to get ordained twice. Well, I was ordained as an interfaith minister because we live in a multi-faith world. I had been traveling around the world. I had been in different kinds of communities. I had lived in Afghanistan for a year, and it terribly shut down Muslim society. I had lived in the Netherlands in a fundamentalist Christian community where you couldn't go out on Sunday unless you were walking to church and walking home again, twice on Sundays. I lived in New Zealand for several times. Hardly anyone in New Zealand goes to church. I lived in Sweden as a very small child. Nowadays, no one in Sweden goes to church. The Lutheran Church is collapsing in Sweden. So I was exposed to different strands, and I was very curious about them. My ordination took place at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, which on one level is incredibly ironic because I was raised in a very stuffy Episcopalian family. And the fact that I was ordained there made my father, he thought I was being ordained as a deacon. I said, no, as a minister. Oh, well, he didn't show up at my ordination, although he had promised to come. When I went to see him 2 weeks later, I went to the Episcopal church with him because I always go to church with whoever I'm with. I don't care what kind of church it is, I go. And the minister asked if there were any visitors. My father stood up and said, yes, my daughter Julie's here. She was ordained as a minister at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine last week. I'm so proud of her. And the whole congregation. And I thought, I'm not going to respond. I wasn't ordained as an Episcopal minister. But I forgave the fact that he had missed my ordination because he did take the time to recognize me. And when I was ordained as a Unitarian minister in the congregation up in Lincroft in Middletown, he was there front and center. Now, I had gone through a lot of studying at different world religions and different kinds of literature, and I had traveled a lot and visited many places of worship, including gurdwaras, mosques, Hindu temples, Buddhist shrines, all kinds of Christian places, theological schools in India, Muslim holy sites. I've been in a mosque, sitting very quietly in the back. I've been in all kinds of churches, and I had to do that when I was studying world religions. The thing that I found interesting was when I was at Drew Theological School, there were 2 people there who were Unitarians, and then there was me. Julie, aren't you going to be ordained as a Unitarian minister? And I started thinking about it, and I thought, I should. Why not? I'm already going to a Unitarian church. I didn't think it was necessary to be ordained again, but Unitarian congregations can be very huffy about the educations of their ministers. Very huffy. And so I went on the Unitarian track, and ultimately I was ordained almost 20 years ago at the Lincroft congregation. Now, as part of this training, you have to do a lot of reflection about where you started, what you went through, and how you arrived in the present. And my message to all of you today is, if you're busy doing life reviews and healing relationships with other people that have been difficult for you or that have been very special to you, I encourage you to do a spiritual faith review. To take some time, get out a notebook and start writing about where you began. Why did you leave it? What do you still value about it? How did you go to the next step? Did you go through an atheist stage, an agnostic stage, a severely humanistic stage, a religious humanist stage, a secular humanist stage? Did you come to Unitarian Universalism at the end of that? My mentor in Lincroft said to me, so you tried the rest, chose the best. And I just laughed. She said that because in a way it felt true for me. And maybe it feels true for you. It's wonderful that you found this place, that you feel comfortable here, and that you are happy. Why not deepen your experience by thinking about what the blessings and curses were of those places that helped you leave them so that you could be here? The Dalai Lama has said that in order to fully embrace something new, you need to understand and acknowledge what you left. The rabbi at my interfaith school, he said, never instead of, always in addition to. When you look at the source, you see what that means. Never instead of, always in addition to. So that is my encouragement, to look into your lives and consider where you were and how you wandered out of that into something else. You know, it's like that song, The Long and Winding Road, that leads me to your door. Yes, what led you to this door? And would anybody like to respond to